Yoza, 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 blessed love and greetings, Reggae Sunshiners. We are live here from the Ginjahmans Reggae HQ. Reggae Sunshiners, this is a world exclusive live reasoning with one of the most female vocalists, the much loved JC Lodge. Her catalogue is absolutely extensive, Reggae Sunshiners, let me tell you. British born to a Jamaican father and English mother, JC Lodge was taken to Jamaica as a child. There, the Beatles van soon became immersed in rhythm and blues and reggae, and sang along to everything she heard. She was encouraged to perform at high school concerts. A relationship with Errol O'Meara towards the latter stage of high school led her further along the musical journey. Errol was a budding songwriter and used her vocal tones to present some of the material to Joe Gibbs' recording studio. We go to the year 1980. While this female singress was well received, she was asked to cover an outstanding piece of individual quality. Someone Loves You, Honey was the name in question. The reggae, country and western tune not only chopped the Jamaican charts, but worldwide enabled this wonderful singstress to have gold and platinum in the Netherlands. A further 11 long albums. That's LP and old school Reggae Sunshiners. Some R&B and some pop. JC has worked with profound producers by the names of Joe Gibbs, Willie Lindo, Gussie Clarke, Neil Fraser, aka Mad Professor, Dr. Dread Tour. Those are just to name a few. And so we go further in the late 80s, around about 1988. The unbelievable hit from Telephone Love, recorded for Clarke, was the first dancehall reggae track to cross over to R&B and hip-hop during the markets over in the United States of America. This led to an album deal with hip-hop label Tommy Boy Records. From JC's album Topic of Love, she received 2 Jammies. Again, Reggae Sunshiners, we have to mention the contributions and the influence of long-standing husbandry. Errol O'Meara. This young gentleman helped to unearth and to polish JC's fine craft. Throughout the 90s, JC consolidated her presence internationally, as far afield as Japan. Further outstanding cuts with combinations like seasoned veterans Cooker T, Ruddy Thomas, And so, Reggae Sunshiners, live here from the grounds of the Ginjahmans Reggae HQ. This is a world exclusive live reasoning with one of Lovers Rock's finest female vocalists. Yozy, 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 JC Lodge, bless you, love and greetings.
Greetings to you and all the Reggae Sunshiners. How you do?
Before we get into the live reasoning, JC, seriously, on behalf of everybody here connected to the Reggae Sunshine Show, whether it's here in the United Kingdom or overseas, could you please accept our sincere gratitude from myself, all the listeners, to you and Errol for taking your busy time schedule and taking time out and reasoning here on the Reggae Sunshine Show. Manners and respect.
Sure. It is my honour to do so. You know, I like to be able to reach out to my fans and make new fans. So, you know, I appreciate this opportunity, Ginjahman.
Yeah, like we say, it's your catalogue. Seriously, JC, your catalogue is absolutely extensive. Before we get into the main structural content regards to the reasoning, could you briefly tell the Reggae Sunshiners regards to your childhood, the small period here in the United Kingdom? I believe you obviously went over to Jamaica. Could you briefly tell the Reggae Sunshiners regards to your childhood, please?
Yeah, well, I was born in Kensington, but always, I think very, very early we lived in Fulham, but then for most of the time we lived in Acton. We moved to Acton and I was there with my dad. So when we were in Fulham and I was a baby, my mother, who was English, was with us, but she left the home when I was 3 because there were differences between her and dad. And so I, you know, became just this only child with my dad living in a flat in Acton. Well, it was actually part of a house eventually. And then I think by the time I got to 10, I think he was having difficulty. You know, he had fostered me out, and I was living with an English family during the weekdays and going to school. But, you know, I was with him on weekends and during holidays, and I think it just got a bit too tricky by the time I was 10 because we were in one room together. So I do remember some, you know, authority figures coming by and having words with him. So I think he realized he had to do something different. And he decided to, well, he told me we were going on holiday to Jamaica, and he told the foster family that I lived with during the week that, you know, I was going on holiday, but I just never came back. He left me there with his sister and her children and his parents. And so that was a new beginning for me in Jamaica.
So, regards to your childhood influences, who were you actually listening to while you were in Jamaica? And which part of Jamaica are we talking about here? Which part of Jamaica with your childhood?
Well, my aunt, his sister, lived in Kingston, in Havendale, which is near Red Hills, Mannings Hill Road, Whitehall Avenue, that area. And so when I got there, R&B plays a lot in Jamaica, so that was on the stations all the time, and I love R&B, and reggae took a little while for me to get into that because it just felt so alien to me. Even though Dad had played some reggae in London, back in London, it was mostly Bob. You know, I don't remember too much of other artists at that time. So in Kingston, you know, it was just like a world of reggae, you know, and I remember it took a while for me to understand even, you know, how to move to it. My cousins were laughing at me trying to show me this reggae move, which I couldn't, you know, get the grasp of for a while. But eventually the song that really captured me first was John Hall's Alibaba. And then I just started singing along to all the reggae songs that I heard, you know. Marcia Griffiths and Dennis Young, you know, Bob Marley, and so many. There's so many, Ken Booth, so many Jamaican artists, you know, that inspired me in that way. along with R&B, because R&B was always there alongside reggae, So, and then I had my dad's jazz influence because dad had a great jazz collection and was always playing from that as well. So, and then another music form that Jamaicans love is country and western. So you get a lot of that, especially on
Yes.
Sundays.
Yeah.
So I got, so I got quite a rounded exposure to music, but reggae became the heart of it.
Seriously, JC, from you just mentioned Acton, regards to here, the United Kingdom, a little girl going to actually Kingston, Jamaica. The environment, believe me, is
Yeah.
is completely different from here in the United Kingdom to Kingston.
Totally, totally. It was culture shock. Well,
Yes.
not just culture, it was just that
Yeah.
all over shock because from the plane door opened and that heat just,
Yes.
whoo, it
Yes.
just
Yes.
comes
Yes.
down on you with a weight. And then we arrived at night, and when we were driving from the airport to my aunt's home, I was hearing all these,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
"What's that, Daddy?" I'm like, "What's that?" And I was told it was whistling toads. And I just love that sound. I miss that.
Yeah.
Being back in the UK, I do miss that sound.
So the little girl from Acton, United Kingdom, places herself with family, Kingston, Jamaica, listening to sounds, Dennis Emmanuel Brown, Marsha Griffiths, Ken Booth, to name a few, Robert Nesta Marley, obviously. The culture is obviously somewhat different here from the United Kingdom. However, looking at your catalogue, seriously, JC, it is absolutely extensive. For some reason here in the United Kingdom, the reggae fraternity circle has a kind of different perspective regards to how reggae's perceived here in the United Kingdom, don't you think?
The Jamaican reggae fraternity sees the UK side
Yes,
differently.
yeah,
Yes, they
yeah,
do. Yes, I was just talking about that recently. That when Errol and I were, we got into the music business and started paying more attention to what was happening on radio and all that, because we were monitoring our airplay as well. Um, just now and again, we'd hear a bit of something from London, for us from England, and Lovers Rock, and we were like, "Wow, what's that?" It was a new sound to us. So when people say that I'm a Lovers Rock act, I find that a little bit strange because in Jamaica we don't use that term. We just do reggae, dance hall, and then you can start qualifying. Well, I do message, a cultural type music, or I do pop reggae, or I do country and western, and that sort of thing. So lovers rock was a new term to us, and to be honest, a lot of Jamaicans didn't really cotton on to it. I think because their own music was so strong and dominant. But to our ears, because Errol also grew up in London for the first part of his life, so I think we had a little bit of something in us that made that really appeal to us.
yeah.
So I remember, trying to pay attention to Sandra Cross and Carol Thompson and Janet Kay and a few. We didn't hear that many males. The male UK music that we heard was from Steel Pulse and Aswad, and they just ruled in that pocket there.
Yes.
But yeah, so I don't see myself as a lovers rock artist because my music development took place in Jamaica, and as I said, Jamaicans don't make lovers rock. Which to me, to my ears, lovers rock sounds like soul reggae or reggae soul,
Yes.
you know. And I have touched on that because Errol and I are very experimental when we produce. So we're always trying to bring in different flavors to our music. So I have a few tracks that could be put into that bag, but generally I don't see myself as a lovers rock artist because I do all sorts of uh, genres in reggae.
If we quickly swift back to late high school, obviously the influence which Errol's had a profound influence on your musical journey is songwriting and influences there. Um, regards to how did the opportunity come regards to Joe Gibbs? I mean, Joe Gibbs is an absolute ginormous name here in the music circle. Joe Gibbs, what was that experience like? But how did the opportunity come with Joe Gibbs?
Yeah, that was another quite a a roundabout journey, really, because it started with just Errol telling me that he wrote songs, and I said, "Oh yeah, that's interesting." And then he said, "But I've heard you singing a bit. You sound like you can sing." And and then he said, "Would you put some of my songs on a cassette?" So in those days, we only had audio cassettes. He said, would you record some of my songs on a cassette, and maybe we could shop it around and see if anybody in the music business might want to record any of them." So I tried, I said, "Okay, well, sing one, let me hear it." And, his melody was kind of like, he knew exactly what he was hearing in his head. But for me, on the outside of it, it wasn't very clear. So it took quite a lot for us to gather exactly what it was he was trying to portray, because he wasn't a singer. Anyway, we managed to get quite a few of his songs on this cassette, and just him banging on the table to give me the timing, and then to kind of flesh them out, because neither of us were musicians, we didn't play an instrument. I would just bounce from one deck to another to put harmonies on. And so they turned out to be, all right as demos. You could recognize the melody and see where they were going. And we ended up, one of the places that we ended up living at had a few musicians that used to live there and also visit. So Allah from the group Chalice, he was one of the Chalice keyboardists. We presented it to him quite early on, and another guy, Charles Lewin, who was a news presenter and also a radio disc jockey. And these people encouraged us and then spread the word a bit and put us on to somebody else. We met Clive Hunt, who was a producer, and I think a horn player at the time, who turned out to be a distant cousin of Errol's. But, he's quite well known in Jamaica as a big producer. And through these people, and I guess on the strength of their say so, finally, Errol Thompson at Joe Gibbs must have taken this cassette and then handed it to Joe Gibbs. But I do remember that Errol and I had to keep going down to Joe Gibbs and hanging out in that yard with everybody else, waiting to be seen. Because even though they had the cassette, we were waiting to get the feedback and to see, okay, are they going to use some of the songs? What's going to be the outcome? So it was quite a few months of going down almost on a weekly basis and hanging around and being told, "No, next week, yeah, we can't see nobody else again today, next week." And that went on until eventually it was our day. And E.T. said to me, "Is who singing on this tape here? Is who singing? Is you?" And I said, "Yes, it's me." And he said, "All right, we want to do something with you, Yeah. All right, we're going to give you a tune to sing." So we were surprised, because I thought they were going to record one of the songs on the cassette. They liked them, and eventually we got a couple of those songs on my first album. But at the time, I think Jamaicans were in the music business were particularly, what would I say? They were not so keen on doing originals with a first time artist, I think, and maybe especially being a woman as well. They saw women as somebody to do cover songs. So the first song they actually presented me with was, I don't know if you know it. It's "Do That to Me One More Time" by Captain and Tennille.
Captain, yeah.
Yeah, so that was the very first one I actually did. But haven't mentioned it on a lot of interviews, because I'd actually forgotten that that was the real first one, and it was only released in the Bahamas, and I think it was just for them like a little taster to see, what reactions would be. And then he got back to me afterwards and said, "Oh yeah, man, yeah, all right, we're going to do our next one now. Listen to this, and see what you can do." And that was "Someone Loves You, Honey." After that. So then I recorded that. I remember it was a nerve-wracking experience for me. These established people, all in the studio, and me at this mic in the singing room. And, yeah, sing up a bit more. Come closer to the mic. We can't hear you. And it just, I was really just so frightened. But I did it, and didn't really expect anything much to come of it. But they told us, yeah, listen out for it. It's going to be on the radio. So Errol and I would start listening to the radio every day, and I wonder. And then when it was finally released, it came out in September 1980. And by, there was that time when we heard it for the first time. Oh my goodness, that's me on the radio. And then by December, it was number one on all the charts. We couldn't believe it.
Absolutely.
And then after that, for it to have crossed over internationally and had success, it was like, wow, okay, what a start.
You know, are we talking around about 1980? Around about 1980, something like
Yeah,
that? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
By 1981, it was Record of the Year in the Netherlands. 1981, 1982, I got a gold and platinum disc from the Netherlands for that song. The
yes, I was.
unfortunate thing that Joe put his name as writer put on the record, so that became a huge problem for him, and he was sued for I don't know how many millions, and that caused him to have to go down.
Wow.
Yeah. So that I remember there were rumors going around that it was something that I was sued. Poor me, I didn't have 2 cents to knock together. Good luck to them for what they could get from us. But yeah, unfortunately, Joe was put out of business because of that.
I mean, regards to producers here, you know, where we're talking of people like Lily Lindo, Gussie Clarke, Joe Gibbs,
Yeah.
obviously Mad Professor Neil Fraser. These are ginormous names in the music circle. JC, you must be unbelievably humbled the life and the journey, your musical career with Errol. Um, you must be so humbling to have been able to have the opportunity to work with these iconic
Oh,
names.
yes, I feel very honored that I have been fortunate to work with so many great producers, musicians, songwriters, you know, harmony singers. I've worked with some of the best. Yeah, I'm really fortunate with that.
Just touching back on what you were saying regards to Jamaica. You know, obviously, I'm very familiar with the parishes in Jamaica, but over this past 5 or 10 years, what's kind of well, not kind of, has really worried me is the way where the music's going over in Jamaica because here over foreign the reggae is absolutely booming out of the speakers, and yet for some reason it's this past 5 or 10 years it's taken a back step over in Jamaica. Obviously, the influence of dancehall is so predominant over in Jamaica. Um,
Yeah.
you know, what's your take on where you feel where reggae is worldwide at the
Well, we
moment?
we came back to London as adults in 2001, and at that time there was already a problem going on in Jamaica as far as we were concerned with the
Yes.
industry. We just felt that it was, I mean, dancehall has its place. It is, it's a valid form of Jamaican music, but for it to dominate so much on radio as well as in the dance hall, that to me was an issue because radio was the only place that people like myself and all the other artists who were not doing dance hall could be heard. You weren't going to hear us so much in the dance hall. So, they had a venue already. So, but then they took over all media, so yeah, it became an issue. And the other unfortunate thing was that radio became a place where you had to start paying to be played. And I think we tried it once out of desperation, and then because it was so expensive, we realized it was unsustainable, and we said no, well, we're not doing that anymore. So if they're not playing us, that's it. We just have to find some other ways around it. So that was what we experienced when we were there up to do, because we spent 33 years in Jamaica. So that's what we saw happening. It went from the earlier stages of reggae ruling, and there was always R&B, as I said, and country and western, and gospel on Sunday, and old R&B. Jamaicans listen to all kinds of music, but reggae used to get a fair deal, and it just got to a point where I just thought, wow, it's no, not looking good. Wasn't looking good. But then I have to be honest again that when we came in 2001, I thought that we were coming to a lively scene here where there would be a live circuit to perform on, and recording wise, I would carry on. Then there's Europe just next door. I would just hop over and do live work there. But it was a very rude awakening coming back to London. The reggae had taken a back seat here as well. When
Yes,
my dad was always, when he came back to England, he stayed here, so he would tell me, what was going on, and we had other friends from London that would give us feedback and so forth, and they were telling me when Someone Loves You Honey was hot here and Telephone Love, and oh, you have to come over and support it, but we couldn't come at that time. It just didn't work out for us. But reggae used to be played on mainstream radio, and that was great, as it should be, because there are so many Jamaicans, or West Indians, I should say, not just Jamaicans, so many West Indians here in the UK who have contributed to this empire.
absolutely.
So we deserve to have a place on mainstream radio, and that sadly has been stripped away. So now it's people like yourself who are struggling to keep it going on online radio, and you have all these pirate stations which serve small communities, but it's very fragmented. So it's a battle for people in reggae to keep it going. It really is a battle, and now we're artists are more reliant on live work more than ever before. And unfortunately, COVID has gotten in the way of that. But I always have hope. I know that it's not going to last forever. And when we get it sorted, hopefully there's going to be a huge surge of live work. And maybe if we can get reggae to the popularity that it had before, somehow force these radio stations, the mainstream stations, to get us back on radio again.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm going to cast your mind back I think it was round about 3 or 4 years ago. I'm regular there in January over at the parish of St Anne, Grizzle Plantation, Rebel Salute.
Oh yeah.
I think it was round about 2018. I was about 6, 7 rows from the front. All of a sudden, I didn't actually realise the billing that you were performing. And on stage now from the UK, JC Lodge. Seriously, JC, you came on. I distinctly remember you bringing your daughter on as well on stage. I can definitely
Yeah.
remember. We had enough rain, believe me, that session as well in January. Regards to Rebel Salute, it's what we call the People's Concert, and
Yeah.
it's somewhat different, obviously, from Reggae Sunfest. Some of the applauds, I think, are very, very well received regards to Tony Rebel, quite simply because not just artists who are on the periphery, but it's seasoned artists. They are bringing other people. I mean, the young lady from Spanish Town, she was just on the rise about 3 or 4 years ago, which was the young girl Coffee.
Oh,
Cockatee brought her on stage, and
yeah.
I think Rebel Salute's a brilliant platform for artists who are just on the
It is.
periphery. You know.
Yes, definitely it is. Definitely. Yes.
But
I have to commend them
what I love
for.
most about Rebel Salute is the abundance of female vocalists what are allowed to given the opportunity at Rebel Salute as well.
Yeah, well, they are, give them credos, yes, but that is exactly how it should be. I mean, I don't understand why in reggae music females are secondary, that we're like second class citizens. I don't get that. In
Yes,
every other genre, women are right there alongside the males. So I think it's something to do with the Jamaican chauvinism, why that works that way.
which
And
moves us. Yeah, go on, Tony.
and I think unfortunately, back in the day, I can remember that some female artists felt that they had to resort to slackness to get the work. That this is what they found when they did this. The men were titillated and the women would laugh along, and that they became popular through that. But there are many of us that will not resort to that. So therefore you're just seen as, and I say in quotations, songbirds, harmless little delicate creatures that sing some love songs here and there, and you use us like how you use nutmeg or something. You just a little sprinkling of us to sweeten out a show, but you're not taken seriously. You're not seen as you're not a main act. You're a sidekick. And there are so many of us now. Women are growing. Lots of young, talented women coming up out of Jamaica. So I think we're going to be something to reckon with, and there'll come a day when we will be alongside the males, not sitting on the back seat.
Absolutely. I mean, just straight off the top of my head, you're talking of current reggae artists on the circuit. You have she's more seasoned, obviously. Queen Ifrica, Etana, Janine. Seriously, there's I feel there is an abundance of talent in Jamaica regards to female vocalists, and all the reggae sunshiners are well aware. I shouldn't need to battle your corner, but like you say, it seems as if there's some sort of male chauvinism regards to the music circle over the years with the reggae circle.
Yeah.
However, your vocals alone is absolutely outstanding. I mean, your catalogue regards to your long play, your LPs, 25 over 30 albums, JC.
Sorry, no, I've got 11 albums, but tons of singles
Yeah,
to
yeah.
make number. Yeah. So yes, it's a lot, and and I haven't stopped. I just carry on because I just, well, as artists are, we just feel that we have to just keep on doing it. It's not You're not just doing it for money. It's something that is a part of you that you have to carry on expressing. So regardless of your exposure or how you're seen. And I mean, I don't want to sound too negative. I get a lot of respect in certain circles. I very fairly recently we discovered I have a huge Polynesian fan base. I've been to Japan several times, and I have a good fan base there, and I've toured in America extensively. So, and of course, Caribbean people the world over. So I do have my fans, and but as I say, I just think that generally for women, we need to be taken a little bit more seriously. And you named a few who are, making some good strides, and more power to them, and more power to more of us.
I mean, you just mentioned, if we can just briefly touch again on Japan. Um, Japan has always been renowned regards to its reggae. What was your experience like from acting in London, from Kingston, Jamaica, all the way to performing over in Japan? What can you tell the Reggae Sunshiners about your experience in Japan?
It was amazing because they are such respectful people. They're so disciplined. They are such genuine fans, and I've been there seven times doing different tours. Uh, just a wonderful experience, and I love my fellow Jamaicans. Of course I do. I'm half Jamaican. How could I not? But I have to say, in terms of audience responsiveness, Jamaicans can be, I think if they're not hearing something that they're familiar with, they don't know how to react. So you can get people standing up with their arms crossed looking at you like, uh-huh. And when are you going to sing my hit?
Yes,
But
yes.
but in Japan, but in Japan,
Yes,
they
I
are
know
so
exactly where you're
open.
coming from.
Yeah, but in
Yeah,
Japan, they are so open-minded, that yes, they're going to react, to something they're familiar with, but they will be open to something they haven't heard before and be able to appreciate it and show you that they appreciate it. So for an artist, you're always looking for that validity and that, for that appreciation. So I'm always going to love to work where people are showing me that they appreciate what I do, you know?
yeah, yeah.
So it was wonderful working there, and I'm sure we'll be back at some point when things free up again. And that there's a ballad because you mentioned that I did a bit of pop and ballads and all sorts of stuff. So
Yes.
the album that I did for Tommy Boy was a chance for Errol and myself to be experimental, and we did have a ballad that I wrote on that album, "Home Is Where the Heart Is," and that song was really loved by the Japanese. So at the time, it made it onto their national chart. So I was quite pleased about that.
Yeah, I mean, just looking through your catalogue, you're talking of combinations with people like Cockatoo, Rudy Thomas. Seriously, you know, these are
Sugar Miner,
Sugar Miner, yeah, the late great Sugar Miner,
Tiger, yeah,
Tiger,
Tiger,
you know,
Shabba,
Shabba Ranks. I mean,
yeah,
everybody in the United Kingdom can obviously relate to Shabba Ranks. He was quite popular in the 90s as well.
yeah.
But what I'd like to ask is obviously your influences as well over in America. You know, you're so well respected, and your journey over in America, where you've done tours and stuff. What was that experience like over in America?
America was a different vibe from Japan because America, the song that they most loved was Telephone Love, and
Yeah.
that crossed over in the urban community. So we were mostly on the East Coast and doing a lot of club dates. So, you know, not so much the big concerts, although I have done a few of the festivals, but, you know, those are more on the West Coast. But on the East Coast, it was the clubs, the club scene. So that means track dates, it's not with a band, you know? So it's a completely different vibe. But, well, I was glad for the work. I'm not knocking it, you know? Yeah.
So obviously, pandemic. It is whenever it was. We've simply lost track of weeks, months, as this episode, in all our levity, has taken place. Once the restrictions have been relaxed, what can the Reggae Sunshiners expect from JC Lodge? What are your plans for once the
Well,
restrictions have relaxed?
Well, as I said, you know, it's very important for artists nowadays to have live work because there aren't any record sales as such anymore. There are hardly any hard copies being made. It's all downloading and Spotifying and all of this stuff. Well, we don't get much off of that. So we can only really make a living from live work. So that's what I'm looking forward to getting back to. And we've got projects waiting in the wings for release, meaning, you know, being available to download. There's I have my latest album is available for to be downloaded already, and that's called Passion Fruit. That's all original, my original writing on tracks that are produced by Errol O'Mealy, and also JA13, who is an English guy. Keith Finch is his real name. JA13. So we came up with play really because it's so fragmented. So maybe we're always trying to strategize and think, what could we do? So Errol said, okay, well, maybe we need to come up with something that's more of a dance type album so that, you know, people who have sound systems would play these tracks. So that's the concept behind Passion Fruit. Most of the songs are dance oriented, but dance hall or reggaeton kind of vibe, you know. So that's that album, and then after that, I've got some other projects in the pipeline. We want to do a tribute to all the great rhythms through time, through Jamaican rhythms through time, and again, I will write the songs on those rhythms, and if I'll ask a few writers I know as well to contribute because it's nice to sing songs from other people as well. So that's another project, and then a further project I'd like to do is a jazzy reggae album because, as I told you before, I do have jazz influence, so I've always wanted to do a project like that. So lots of things in the pipeline, and as soon as we get the go ahead, you know, shows had started to pick up quite a bit just before COVID, and some of those are waiting to resume. Others got cancelled, you know, but I think once we get the go ahead, things are going to go wild, you know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know, it seems very, very strange at the moment regards to coronavirus. However, we believe here in the United Kingdom there's light at the end of the tunnel, and
Oh yeah, I believe that too.
I'm the first one who can't wait for live performances. There's nothing sweeter to caress the soul to see a live performance right in front of your eyes, you know. And like you say,
Yeah,
regards to the downloads, the money is obviously where the touring is, you know, for yourselves.
yes, yeah.
But on a
Unless you get some million, you know, multi-million selling tune. And,
yeah,
yeah.
just a quickly, final word, JC.
Yep.
It's absolutely wonderful how you, and we have to give